Imagine a room with just a few people. All of them share the same amount of food, water, air, and space. In addition, a constant flow of resources are provided on a daily basis. Now picture a room with a few more people. The new folks would probably get nothing. But since these creatures possess unquestionably good morals and a social structure that resembles much of today's, the resources are instead further split up amongst their new neighbors. An interesting and unexpected development has occurred. Apparently, the lack of predators and diseases alongside the facility's 5-star medical attention allowed these creatures to reproduce and bring life to a litter of uninvited people. As good as it sounds, this unforeseen event has consequently put some heavy strain on the supply chain, and so the people will begin to see less and less of their needs fulfilled. At this rate, good morals won't suffice for 2 more cycles. And there we have it, the first signs of aggression. Regarding YouTube policies for ad revenue, we will part ways for now and return when the situation has stabilized. It appears that the tension brought by such a high-density population caused a major conflict within the group. My speculation is that the dilemma, where resource shares lower as population increases, has forced the creatures to find possible solutions, eventually committing to one that would be as brutal as forcefully dispatching their fellow beings for a higher chance of survival. Unfortunately enough, this issue is eerily similar to the one most of us face today. The one mentioned was given the name overpopulation. Of course, that was not the only way to solve the issue, but it would not be too far from what humanity has already tried. But allow us to address this question first. What is overpopulation? In terms of today's relevance, overpopulation is defined as the circumstance where the Earth is incapable of supporting the population's needs due to the number of occupants being over the limit allowed by its current resources. For instance, if the Earth can sustain a number of 15 humans and the actual amount is 20, then the resources they consume would deplete much faster than it can refill, leaving less and less for every person, and more issues branch off from there. What caused this to happen? Overpopulation is the effect of several contributing factors: poverty, technological improvements, migration, and a lack of education. Without the proper equipment to deal with unwanted pregnancies, nor the access to contraceptives or a reliable doctor, people tend to produce dozens of offspring who may each later on give life to a dozen of their own children. Hopefully, you can sense a pattern here. Humanity has come a long way with tech, from enabling us to build sanitary environments with treatments suitable for every possible disease and injury to performing tasks through use of cars, drills, etc. As a result, the death and infant mortality rate declined while the birth rate rose. In the pursuit of a more luxurious life, people would move from less developed countries to the more developed ones like the US, gaining access to better medical treatment and causing a shortage of goods from an increase of demand. And lastly, those who have not received sex education or family planning would not know how to properly prevent pregnancies or deal with their hormonic urges. They would especially be insensible to overpopulation and its effects on the world they live in, continuing to reproduce without being mindful of the global consequences. According to a 2017 article published by Arcadia blog, the universal life expectancy increased by 5 years between the years 2000 and 2015, accumulating to a 35-year life expansion over the last century alone. What does that mean? Well, a longer lifespan means more people existing at the same time, thus more opportunities to reproduce than before. The article also suggests that population growth and energy consumption have a direct relationship, revealing that between the years 1974 and 2007, there was a 41.7% increase in the US population, and at the same time, a 37.1% increase in US energy usage. So in theory, as the world population grows, the growth of demand for scarce resources will follow suit. What are the effects of overpopulation? We have already discussed 2 of the consequences, those being increased energy consumption and resource depletion. But there are many more on the list, such as increased environmental damage, increased conflict, and pandemics. Simply put, more people means more homes means less nature, more people means more energy usage means more carbon emissions means more global climate change, and so on. Please note that the damage is not limited to this route. With less resources for more people, nations will be looking to fight for a larger portion of the remaining pile, and in retrospect, a certain major superpower has already begun down this path during a recent 20-year war. Transmittable diseases work best when released or exposed to high-density populations. In this case, every person is closely grouped together to easily pass on the illness. As a catalyst for most environmental issues, overpopulation is realistically comparable to a threat looming over the lives of every human being. Can we do something about it? Fortunately for us, there are still ways to combat the growing problem. For example, in less developed countries where overpopulation is one of the most prominent issues, charity groups can provide sex education and the tools necessary to take the initiative. Obviously, learning and applying are two different obstacles, so the locals will need to be open-minded in order for this method to be effective. If we can support the development of these communities and educate the people more on the world they live in, then they can become aware of the situation and adopt existing policies to regulate the issue.